So this pen is a unique object as it is a 19th to 20th century pen, and it was passed down to me through George, the son of Dimitri Charbashidze, who would support our family members quite deeply as we would suffer through a number of regimes. And so this pen is a very significant part of our family history. This is an enamellized pen, and he would personally use this to write documents with. And as you can see, it has a lot of enamel, but it also what is important to me is what it signifies through symbolism. To me, this is a symbol of how warfare and great important matters transformed from matters of swords and conflicts to matters of writing. I would say the world is now much more interesting, much more technological, much more advanced, and what we have to do is adapt. And this to me signifies how the pursuit of education and knowledge is what improves a man rather than the pursuit of other forms of art. I mean, there are thousands of forms of art, but I would say education is a very important thing to pursue. And this to me is just an inspiration of what I must do in life and a symbol of my own personal matters. Now, during the 19th century, a certain prominent individual, as I have more than likely probably mentioned, is George, the son of Dimitri Charbashidze, who was a very prominent member of our family. Now, the Prince of Abkhazia was a very interesting individual. What I found particularly meaningful about him was his academic pursuits and his inspiration towards doing more and acting more. He founded schools for women, which is a very inspiring cause and very interesting to see in the Caucasus. He would fund charities, he would fund individuals, he would fund writing groups, he would fund culture, and that is a very interesting and important thing to do in the modern day and age. Pursuing history, pursuing arts, pursuing education is as fundamental to our understanding of the world as much as science. And even science should be pursued. And what he did and what is inspiring to me, aside from... Now, the personal qualities about him, I believe, stem from his understanding of the human cause, the understanding of humanity and being close towards it. And that is primarily expressed in his attitude and passion towards humanity in general. As a Prince Charbashidze, he was a very big inspiration to me. The fact that he gave me and left me a gift of his enamellized pen once again just demonstrates how much of an interesting individual he was. Though he didn't give it personally to me, I inherited it through my father and my grandfather. The fact that he gave it to our family members because we were relatives just speaks to me of how important he found the concept of education. And this pen itself signifies the importance of pursuing education and pursuing the understanding of the world. Now, there's this very famous phrase that the modern day's sword is a pen. But aside from viewing it as a weapon, I would say it's more than that. It's a tool for understanding and a tool of pursuit. And aside from that, it's also a great, interesting, beautiful artifact. Now, regarding George, the son of Dimitri Charbashidze, once again, he was, I would say, as important of an individual of our family as Dardan Charbashidze, Solomon Charbashidze, and Aslan Bey Charbashidze. And I would say, going on more about that, these members particularly drew me to themselves because of how great they understood the human cause, the Caucasian cause, the cause of Western Caucasus in itself, and how important it was to support individuals, to support great causes, to support economics, for as interesting as it may be, to support technological advancement, because Navy at the time was a big technological advancement, and the support of Navy and the support of sea merchandise and the support of port fare was, I would say, a very important matter. Now, in the modern day and age, though I'm by no means as important of a historical individual at this current time as my ancestors were, what I find interesting is finding and understanding the concepts such as AI, which is artificial intelligence. Now, in college, I'm currently studying classes and I'm taking classes in AI itself. And what I find interesting is how greatly we can advance machinery to understand human concepts. Now, I'm shifting a bit off topic, but I think it's an interesting topic. Nowadays, what we see in technology is we see a shift from the classical phones and mobile phones and computers to pseudo concepts such as AI. Now, what is interesting about AI is the way it works is it's a predictive algorithm. What it does is basically it gets your output and it gets your input, which is basically your input could be any piece of text. Then it predicts what could be the other alternative towards that text. As an example, I'll demonstrate. I would say, hey, what is your favorite color? And it may say, oh, I do not have a favorite color. And it will understand this based on the fact that this is a question, that this is a statement, and it's about color. And that's the way AI works. And I see great potential in that matter. Now, the way I see it is, though AI is a brand new form of art and brand new form of technology, I see great potential in it. But what we must understand is, maybe sometimes technology can be a bit dangerous, and maybe pursuing AI to such an extent may bring us some sort of an alternative version of the film Terminator where the robots take over. But that is a matter for a different day. What we must talk about today is the importance of AI and the importance of coding. I would say, and I find it really interesting, I tried to find other people from the Caucasus to talk to and other pages to talk to about these matters, but I couldn't see them in college and in the United States specifically. It's a very rare thing to see, but if I had the chance, I would definitely talk about these matters, because we must address these things. AI is a very important matter. Computer science is a very important matter. And though I'm lucky enough as a Caucasian Abhazian and as an individual who is a descendant of the Prince of Abkhazia, I would say these matters need to be addressed. The concepts of AI is, to me, a very interesting thing. What we could see and the number of potential features that AI may have and the way it may impact our life specifically is unimaginable. Now, just 30 years ago, we saw a transformation from the classical computers, which were the size of entire rooms in colleges, which I actually saw in UT Austin. It was a thing that we could see, to now phones that could, in the past, if they had taken their processing power through CPUs, could have been used by NASA to greatly improve on moon travel, as an example. But now I see that through AI, we're shifting more towards an almost sci-fi world, which could be greatly interesting to see. And I would be more than inspired by interested in seeing other members of the Caucasian region itself, a big, interesting region, participating in these matters. You know, that is a very interesting thing to me. Regarding Michael Chachba-Sharvashidze, what I found interesting about him was, as a prince of Abkhazia, he was a very skilled and interesting individual. He was, of course, the last prince of Abkhazia, but he was a very, very politically skilled, very educated, and very prominent individual, not only in Abkhazia, but in all of Caucasus. And that is really inspiring to me. He was I would say, the political equivalent. I couldn't even find as skilled of a political individual as he was. He was very well known in diplomatic matters, very well known in general, like, aside from warfare, diplomacy. But aside from diplomacy itself, he was very knowledgeable about world history. He was very educated in foreign languages, and he was, I would say, a very well respected individual. Now, beyond Prince Michael, the last prince of Abkhazia, I would say what I would say is a prominent matter that people need to focus on is the modern day and age concepts such as climate change, which I believe that the people of Abkhazia and the people of the Caucasus and the people of the world need to talk about more. It's a matter that deeply requires all of our attention, all of our resources, all of our development, and a matter that must be dealt with very fast, because it's a very fastly approaching matter. And in a couple of generations, I would say this is a great problem that we may have to deal with, climate change. Now, regarding other matters, I would say the conserving of national parks, conserving of animals such as lynxes, which are, I would say, a symbolical animal of Abkhazia and of the northern Caucasus, of western Caucasus, and the Caucasus in general, is also an interesting matter to me, because it's a very, aside from being a great, beautiful animal, it's a very rare and, to a certain extent, an animal that can go beyond extinction, cannot come back, which is why I must believe that it's an animal that must be taken care of. And aside from that, archaeological advances, finding out more about the history of Abkhazia, the history of the Caucasus, is also an interesting matter that must be dealt with, because finding out more about the world through archaeology, because sadly most paper-based documents cannot be conserved, is also an interesting matter that must be dealt with. Now, beyond that, I would focus on an interesting part of our family history, which concerns the relations with the royal dynasties of the world. Now, because of the regime changes that occur in the Caucasian region, I would say a lot of things have changed. And because of that, because of the Soviet Union's involvement, and because of the collapse of the Russian Empire, then the Soviet Union, then everything else that came with it, I would say our family lost ties with many of the royal dynasties of the world, even though we had many of them. But through the help of my father and through my help as well, we managed to connect with a lot of members of our distant royal families of Europe and distant princely families of the world. And we managed to reestablish some of these links that we used to have. Now, I also, beyond the royal dynasties concept, I wish to address another concept. And that comes with the matter of objects and artifacts that belong to members of our family. There are certain objects that we still have in our possession that though we do have them, we do not wish to not talk, but more so demonstrate them, because they are objects that are of high historical value, and we want to address them and demonstrate them in a proper, more professional and sophisticated way, rather than just showing them off. And though I'm showing this object off very clearly, the pen of Prince George, son of Dimitri Charbashidze, I would say the other objects need to be talked about and shown off in a more professional, more academic sphere, rather than just on a interview such as this, though it is quite an interesting interview, as I may say. Now, regarding other matters, aside from this, I would say the topic of education is also very important. I would say establishing a branch of a university that is, for example, in the United States or in England, but most prominently in the United States, because the states that I've been in, most prominently the state of Texas, also has great promise in terms of education. In fact, the GDP of the college specifically of the University of Texas is approximately from $30 to $40 billion, which is a great deal of funds and capital. Establishing a branch of such a university in Abkhazia or the Caucasus would bring about sophisticated amounts of individuals, would promote education, which I think is very important, and will allow individuals who are just as passionate, just as interested in history as most of the world is, will allow them to pursue this education more clearly and more professionally. And that would be a great thing to see, and which I plan on helping with, most definitely, if not doing it by myself. I plan on doing it as it is a great passion of mine, and I plan on doing it because I have the ability to, and I think it would be a great thing to see in Abkhazia and in the Caucasus specifically, and Western Caucasus too. Now, aside from that, I would say I was also very much interested in this new concept of economic development that my father has done research in. And though I do know a lot of things about it, it's best to talk to him about this matter, and as it is his sphere of understanding and knowledge. Though I'm quite interested in economics, I'm not as educated in economics right now as my father is, and so that would be addressed by him very well. But economic development is, I think, a fundamental part of the development of not only Abkhazia in Western Caucasus, but also of the Caucasus in general. I believe that the Caucasian, I don't even know what to call it. It's such a very interesting cultural idea that it's itself. It's the Caucasus. I would say its development would be a fundamentally interesting thing. I would say a federation of the Caucasus would be an interesting development to see, and one in which I would most definitely participate, if not actively and proactively see the development in, as it is a very interesting not even a region. It's the Caucasus. The development of the Caucasus would be an interesting thing to see, and the Caucasian Federation, which I believe it's an idea that most people have talked about. A lot of people have, and a lot of people who are current heads of state and so on. But seeing a Caucasian Federation would be not even a federation per se, but an economic unit, a single economic unit that would connect so many different people through economic matters would be an interesting development to see, as I think that this place has a lot of economic potential. And I can say that with confidence because I study at the University of Texas, Austin, and we see a lot of things aside from micro and macroeconomics. We talk about many case studies, and I would say this region has great potential, and the United Caucasian economic unit would be a great, interesting thing to see, and one in which I would most definitely actively participate in. I'll also say that the establishment of and I'll personally participate in this a united education front in Abkhazia would be an interesting development, and in the Caucasus too. I would say to the Abkhazian individuals and to the Abkhazian people, and I mean people with the same age as me, of course, that pursuing education as of now is a very important matter that should be dealt with. I would say through education we can see developments in arts, history, economics, and that economics is a very important part, because economic development, I believe, is a guarantee. It's not like some matter of hesitation. With sophisticated amounts of education, with development of cultural ties, of development of, I would say, though Abkhazia can develop economically quite well by through the sheer will of the educated people, I would say a united Caucasian educational development through economics would be an interesting thing to see as well. I would say that the Caucasus has such great economic potential, and with the younger generations of Abkhazians and of Caucasians as well, I would say the development of a more united front in terms of education and at the same time understanding of concepts that pertain to history, that pertain to maybe possibly even legal matters, and history itself would be an interesting take to see. Asian history is to me the concept and the involvement of Genoese merchants in the 15th century. That is a very interesting piece of history that I would like to see more involvement in. So we have several coat of arms, but this is my favorite. This is my personal favorite. Although this is also another one, but I like to talk about this one more because it has symbols that I find particularly interesting. Now, with this one, what I find interesting is the classical symbols of Sukhumi, the city of Sukhumi, and the two brothers Dioscuri. And these two objects on the coat of arms itself are the pylos hats, which are Greek hats that used to be worn in ancient Greece, but as Dioscurius is a Caucasian, Abkhazian, and Greek monument of world history, I would say this is the reason why it has two Greek helmets, the pyloses, and the two stars demonstrate the two Dioscuri brothers, Castor and Pollux, were supposedly the mythological Greek beings who founded the city of Sukhumi, Dioscurius, or Aqua as it is known. At the same time, the knight with the crown is supposed to demonstrate regal power, as in royal/princely authority, and the two creatures that are holding up this coat of arms are the griffins, which are supposedly very powerful beings, as they are a combination of both eagles and lions. Now, I find this coat of arms interesting because, number one, to me it's a very beautifully made, but at the same time the symbolism of the two Dioscuri brothers shows the power of unity and education itself, and the fact that it's inspired by this ancient Abkhazian, Caucasian, and Greek history is also very interesting to me. That's why I like it the most, honestly. So this is the genealogical table of the Chachba-Sharwashidze family. It was made with a collaboration of different members of the Chachba-Sharwashidze family, including but not limited to Leo Chachba-Sharwashidze. And my father was actually also participating in the making of this genealogical table, but the person who drew this and made it was Leo Chachba-Sharwashidze. And there are a lot of members of our family, like I would say, like to this day, like hundreds. But the princely line is right there. We are at the top, but this is mainly it. This is the genealogical table. A lot of members of our family on the genealogical table.